Hello, everyone, and welcome to the OnlyLandFans show. My name is Kendall Lejeune, and our guest today is Alicia Jarrett. Alicia is a passionate and driven global real estate investor based out of Australia, conducting deals in the United States. She co-owns multiple businesses, including Global Citizens Holdings, Inc., Land Scouts, and Supercharged Offers. Focused on leadership in business and investing in land, her business ventures provide efficient real estate marketing and world-class data solutions, which assists other real estate investors to digitally transform their businesses for increased results. AJ, thanks so much for joining us. How are you today?
Thanks, Kendall. I'm wonderful. Thank you. This is session number 3. I'm so excited. I feel like we can continue this forever because you and I just always have so much to talk about.
I just absolutely love it. I'm so glad that you're doing well. I am so excited about this is our third installment here in this masterclass of the
Yep.
REI journey. And so today we're going to be talking about the 100K Club. What is it? What does it take to get there and how you can get access? So let's jump right in. Tell us exactly what is the 100K Club?
The 100K Club. So we've actually got that as one of our, I guess, groups, if you like, of customers and supercharged offers. And that is the people that want to have their land business make about 100K a month on average. So
Wow.
they're shooting for 1.2 million above per year. And I think it's a really good topic to talk about because often people have these lofty dreams of wanting to get to that, but really unpacking, and I know you and I are great at unpacking this stuff, really unpacking what does it take to get there? What does that look like from a lead flow perspective and deal flow perspective? And what might you need to surround yourself with in order to get to that goal, right? Because it is achievable
Absolutely.
and it is attainable, and we've got people there, which is awesome. But is it easy? No. But if it was that easy, everyone would be doing it, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Everyone would be doing it. Well, that's super exciting, and I'm so intrigued. 100K a month. We're talking about some pretty large numbers here, especially when you're looking at it from a year-long perspective. Looking at it where, we are at the time of this recording, we are coming up to the new year, 2024. I know a lot of people are starting to plan for the next year and look at this next quarter. And so let's talk about what does it take for a real estate investor to consistently make $100,000 per month in the land business?
Yep. Let's do that. Can I share my screen?
Absolutely.
Yeah, beautiful.
Let's get that going for you. All right. There you go.
Okay. I went through this last week, but I can see a few names on here that probably don't know this. So first and foremost, we've got to reverse engineer the numbers. So when we spoke about this last week and you loved this as a visual, so I think it's really a good place to start because in order to have a goal, we need to know what's our starting point and where do we need to get to in our journey to where we want to go. So starting point's really, really critical, right? So
Right.
the 100K Club is obviously people that are up in the top 1% of income earners in the US into the top 1 of 1. So it's sitting in this section up here. So really what this is looking at, some people might be down here where they're doing, somewhere between say 3 to 5 deals a month. That's probably going to land them somewhere between 1 to 200K a year. Then when they start to go from 5 to 10 deals a month and upwards, they'll be at sort of the first third of the hundreds, if you like. So the 3 to 400K. To get to the top 1%, you're looking at about 800K a year and then onwards and upwards from there. So I guess the reverse engineering of the metrics here, Kendall, is first of all, what do you want your deals to look like that equals 100K? So are you going after 5 deals at an average of 20K each? Are you going after 10 deals that are an average of 10K each? Are you doing quality versus quantity or a combination of both? And as we kind of put down the bottom here, as you grow your business and your deal flow increases, more deals equals more problems. Now, they're not necessarily negative problems, they're positive problems. So what you want to be thinking of when you're up here at the 100K Club is number one, and I'll stop sharing and come back and talk before I go to, some numbers around this. Number one, what does working on your business versus in your business look like? In order to do that volume of deals or that many deals, or maybe they're more complicated deals that are big 6-figure deals, but you really need to be in there managing stuff, what do you need to surround yourself with? So the first thing I like to look at is what are the ancillary services out there? And there are so many things out there now in vacant land. What are the ancillary services I can surround myself with that are going to speed up that that efficiency around my deal flow, and also look at where my time is best spent? Because what I will say from experience, that our customers that are in the 100K club, they're not doing it all by themselves. They do lean on people. Now, that doesn't mean they've got a team of 5 or 10 VAs around them. Quite the opposite. It's about efficiency and effectiveness with that. So a lot of them might have 1 to 2 VAs, but then they're very clear on their SOPs. We spoke about SOPs last week in a lot of detail as well. So standard operating procedures and processes. They're very clear on their outsourced providers for things. So they've got transaction coordinators. Now, we use easy REI closings, and I've talked about them before. Have someone that as soon as your deal is ready, boom, off it goes, outsource it, they handle it. When it comes to marketing your properties, are you going with a realtor-led, broker-led, or putting it out to the market? What types of deals do you think are going to suit that? And really thinking about your exit strategies with that as well. And then also what comes into that is the type of deal. So, as I said, quality versus quantity. Are you going after a couple of deals a month that are maybe really big deals that might be like recreational land, large acreage, small to medium subdivisions, larger subdivisions that won't pay out straight away? These are things that might take 6 to 12 months to really get in motion as well. And then finally, it's reversing engineering the numbers for marketing around all of that too.
Excellent. So you mentioned the types of deals. I'd like to back up and unpack that just a little bit. I know when a lot of people, including myself, when we sit down to plan and say, okay, well, what kinds of deals do we want to do? What types of profit do we want to make per deal? It's always the natural inclination to say, well, I want to make as much as I possibly can, right?
Yeah.
And so
why are we in business? Why are we entrepreneurs otherwise,
exactly,
right?
Exactly. So can you talk a little bit about what are some of the key factors that you consider when deciding what types of deals you're going to be going after, what size deals you're going to be going after? Because not every deal is a one size fits all type for every single investor.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about how someone can decide what type of deal they're going to go after?
Yep, 100%. So when it comes to type of deal, you want to be looking at number one, what is the exit strategy for those deals, first of all, and then number two, what is the data required for those deals? So if you think exit strategy, first of all, so in your strategy, you might decide that you've got some entitlement deals in there that are bigger projects. You might have some infill lots in there and some medium to small or small to medium acreage that could be a minor subdivision, but also could be a land flip. Okay, so make sure you've got multiple strategies within there. The second then is to decide data around that. So when I'm looking at data for these bigger deals and 100K type of businesses, we don't necessarily want to go after the 5 to 10K deals, right? We really want to be looking at about a minimum profit of 20K per deal and upwards. Okay, so if it's 20K per deal, what I then suggest you do is do some research in those counties on what does a 20K deal look like. What I mean by that is go into Zillow, Realtor.com, Land.com, etc. Look at what deals are selling at that would enable you to get them at a certain price, and then again reverse engineer your numbers to what does a 20K deal look like. The reason why I say that is every county is quite different. So in some counties, that might mean that we're pulling data that the tax assessed value for that deal might be $30,000 to $35,000, knowing that really it's worth maybe like 50 to 60. In other counties, we might be pulling tax assessed data that is like 50 to 60 grand, knowing that that county is about right. So really get a sense of what that county looks like with how they're valuing their deals, so that when you're pulling the right deals that are going to be applicable to your strategy, you're not pulling junk into your deals too. When it comes to the big entitlement deals, so subdividing minor subdivisions, major subdivisions, things like that, again, data is critical here. So looking at size of property. So again, do some research on, call the county and call the city. What are the recent subdivisions that have happened? What are the types of things that developers and builders are starting to look at that would be an appetite? Call builders and developers, find out what they want. What's their buy box? And then try and make that happen, right? Supply and demand, it really comes into it there too.
Hey, land fans, looking for your tribe of serious land investors? Join thousands of your fellow land lovers in the OnlyLandFans Facebook group. We're talking real deals, expert strategies, and game-changing connections you won't find anywhere else. This isn't just another real estate group. This is the community where land investors come to level up. Join us at onlylandfansgroup.com and join the conversation today. That's onlylandfansgroup.com. See you there. Yeah, that is fantastic. I think, one of the most important things, especially when deciding what types of deals you're going to go after, when you figure out what size deals you want to go after, then that will sort of inform your processes as well, right? Because there are different approaches to doing subdivides versus just doing simple infill lot flips. And you have to be set up to be able to handle those correctly instead of just kind of casting a super wide net and just try to like take everything that comes in and deal with it as you go.
Yeah.
It might be more beneficial to specialize in a specific type of deal. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. But you can do multiple strategies in a 100K customer, right? You can do multiple strategies, but then what I'd suggest is make sure that you've got your SOPs, your processes, your exit plan, your team for each of those strategies. So if it is like an entitlement deal, and don't get me wrong here, folks listening, I'm not saying that to be a 100K customer, you have to go out and do entitlement deals. You don't. You might just look at larger properties that are going to yield that return for you. But if you are doing that, again, you don't need to be the expert in this stuff. Your job is to orchestrate the deal, to bring the right people into the deal and make that deal happen. I've spoken before about Mike Marshall and his services for helping you out to do entitlement work, and it's excellent. So if you find the deal and you've done your due diligence and it ticks the right boxes and it meets your criteria to be in that 100K bracket, go for it. Don't think through the lens of how much money can I get from this. Think, how can I make a deal so that everybody wins? And then you have a different mindset around stuff too.
Yeah, that is fantastic. So you've mentioned that you had, several customers that are in this 100K club. Can you talk a little bit about what are some of the different qualities that these customers' businesses have in the 100K club?
Yeah, that is a great question. And I was just having this discussion with one of my team members, which is called the be, do, have model. You can Google it, be, do, have. And what the model really talks about is, in order for me to have 100K a month, who do I need to be? What's my identity in that? And therefore, what do I need to do to create that identity and that mindset and the actions that are going to get me to that goal, right? Because I think a lot of people will start off with a goal like, yeah, I want to be in the 100K club. I want to do 100K a month. I want them. But then they start and they're like, oh, this is difficult. This is challenging. And all those negative words come into play here, right? So let's first of all talk about mindset. You do need the mindset of a business owner, not a deal desk. Was it you and I that were having that conversation on our first call, deal desk versus business owner?
Yeah, Logan
Yeah,
Fulmer calls it the
that's
deal
it.
shop. The
Yeah,
deal
deal
shop.
shop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you cannot operate your business like a deal shop where you're just shuffling deals around, right? You need to be operating it like a business owner, which is really to understand your workflow, your processes, really have the mindset of, how do I make this efficient so that you're not getting caught up in the day-to-day minutia of stuff? Really understand then your role in the business. So are you the key negotiator? And I would say for these bigger deals, yes, you are. Because one of the things I've noticed when we're working with bigger deals is a lot of these property owners, they know what they're sitting on. This is not about a rock bottom offer. This is about having a mature conversation with a property owner who knows that their property might be worth 100 grand, 200 grand, and maybe having that business to business conversation about what that looks like for them. So it's a different mindset. You're not just a land flipper anymore. You're a business owner. So that's really critical. Then if we think about the skill sets within that as a business owner, that then becomes about managing your resources appropriately. Now, that's not just virtual assistants, or again, I don't like the VA term that we spoke about last week, your customer service team, your lead intake manager, your disposition person, your, what did I call before? Your transaction coordinator, if you're using Easy REI closings or anything like that. Like, you've got to orchestrate. You used to be a music director, right, Kendall?
That's right. That's right.
I look at then the business owner role as like the person up front orchestrating stuff. That's got to go
Absolutely.
over there. You've got your sticks. That's got to go over there. You start what you need to do now. And you're literally managing processes. And within those processes are people and systems as well. So I think the mindset first of being a business owner and not just a deal desk or a deal coordinator or anything like that, shift it up and really think about working on your business, not in it, and where your time is best spent. The other mindset shift you need to make is, what is your time worth? And challenge yourselves on this almost like on a daily basis. Because if you're doing 100K a month and you're doing X amount of hours, well, let's just say that your time is worth $1,000 an hour. Just use that as a round number. So therefore, you shouldn't be doing stuff that is a $10 an hour task. And if that can be systematized, outsourced, or managed differently, then you got to push yourself to do that. Because you might be needing to think a little outside of the box with how you're managing things. Yeah. So be that. So mindset, be, do, have model. Who do I need to be? Business owner, CEO type mindset, and orchestra. Yeah.
I love
I
that.
think if there's anything else I haven't mentioned there, but
I love that so much. I'm always a fan. It pulls on my heartstrings when I hear music references. So thank you for that. Um, one of the things that stuck out to me was when you mentioned that you really do have to manage processes, and that kind of takes me back to our last conversation last week about how important it is to even have processes to begin with. You have to be
yeah,
able to have process to be able to manage those processes and make sure that they're streamlined and make sure that they are efficient. So, one of the things that always goes in my mind, I'm always fascinated to see how different really successful business owners run their businesses. And so, one of the questions that I would have for you is, what are some of the main differentiators between people that may be stuck at the 50K a month benchmark
yeah,
versus our 100K club members that are
yeah.
getting 100K a month?
Couple of differences I see. The first is control. Now, I'm going to say this with an open heart to anyone listening, but if you're trying to control everything in your business yourself and not using processes or systems or workflows to manage stuff for you, and then you're just managing the outcome, then you're going to get stuck. So people that I see that do get stuck in that, are like they hit this ceiling, right? It's almost like they can't go any further. They tend to have a mindset that they feel that they need to control everything. Now let's kind of break that down, because somebody that is a control freak, let's just use that for um, comedy's sake, right? We all know what that control freak looks like, and most of us have been there ourselves, or we've been in situations that we feel like we need to control everything, right? That tends
Definitely.
to come, if we look at what's underneath that, that tends to come from a couple of different behaviors. One of those is that we don't trust. We don't trust the process, the system, or the people. So I think you've got to challenge yourself to go, what does trust mean for me to the point that I can let go? Doesn't mean you're getting rid of the task or outsourcing it, or absconding from accountability. It just means, at what point do you let go and set something up that it can run itself or someone else can run it, and all you want is to be kept in the loop and kept informed on stuff, right? Because again, if your time is managing it all yourself and trying to keep control, there's only so many hours in the day that you can do. So therefore, you're going to run out of time to focus on. Remember last week I spoke a lot about the moving the needle activities. Then if you're trying to have control over everything, you're not going to be spending your time on the moving the needle activities, which is really about negotiating deals, making sure your processes are all lined up, making sure your deal flow is happening, making sure your marketing's on point, making sure you've got consistency in your business, all that stuff. The second thing is what that I mentioned. So, control is one. The second is consistency. And that was the last word I finished on, right? The difference between someone that keeps hitting that ceiling versus someone that's at that high level is consistency and volume. So someone that's sitting at a 100K club, in 6 months, they're probably marketing to more than 100,000 people in those 6 months. Now, some people might hear that number and be like, that's a massive amount. Yes, it is. But again, going back to that graph I showed you at the beginning, if you want to get to that stage that you're doing X amount of deals per month, you need to have your volume going. Now, the third thing I'll go with that is the mindset around money, because if you wanted to get to 100K a month, you might need to be spending 15 to 20K a month on marketing. Now, a lot of people hear that number and go, oof. And I'm like, yeah, but that's the reality. And it's the same if you look at it. If someone is spending 5,000 a month and they're making 20, 25,000 a month, it's the same. It's just growth, so you're going to have to be prepared to work up to that, but realize, and we work with people that are spending that and more, right? They're big and they're going bigger. And so again, you need to make sure that you're looking at money through the lens of investment and opportunity and not budget and spend. Because the same principle applies. X amount of dollars in, X amount of dollars back. And don't be scared of the numbers. And those numbers as well, if you want to get to that, you need to be looking at deals that are six figures. Yes, you'll be getting some deals that are also five figures, but six-figure deals and maybe even seven-figure deals. Don't be scared by the numbers. It's just a number. The process itself doesn't necessarily change.
Yeah, that is absolutely fantastic. When you are talking about the numbers and that it's the same on a small scale as it is on a large scale, you had mentioned on one of our calls about saving a certain percentage of each of
Each
your
deal.
month's income, right?
Yeah.
To be able to put into your business. And so when you look at it, for me, it just helps if I'm looking at it from percentages, right? So 15 to 20,000 might sound like a lot, but if you take it as a percentage of your overall what you've done for that month, then it takes the sting out of it a little bit, right?
Yeah, correct. And if you're spending 20K a month to make 100, that's a 5x return. So,
Absolutely.
you got to think of it in that way. What's the return I'm looking for, and how do I then plan for that? And as I mentioned, our customers that are up at that are in a 6 month period. It's between 100 and 120,000 that they're mailing, or not
Wow.
just mailing, marketing too, because it's a combination of different things that we do for them. But it is, there's a high volume there. So again, from a system side, you've then got to reverse engineer that and go, okay, well, how much volume can I take at any point in time when it comes to managing my leads and my deals? Because if you're not prepped with your SOPs and your people and your systems and your processes to be able to handle that lead flow, then again, it's going to be waste of money. So I guess my key message here, and it goes back to that graph, if you don't have everything in place, don't start with that. Start with doing 5,000 a month and trying to get 20 to 25 back. Start with that. And then every single deal you do, 20% of your profit, park it. 20% of your profit, park it. Always got to go back into your business. Otherwise, you don't have a business.
That's right. That is absolutely fantastic. I love that thought process of looking at deals as as a part of a process, as a part of a system. And if it's not just as simple as, putting the marketing money in and then getting the return back, you actually have to have the systems and the infrastructure in your business to be able to support the leads that $20,000 a month of marketing is going to be bringing in, right?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about, we just briefly talked on some numbers when it comes to the marketing investment for the
Yeah.
100K club. Can you talk a little bit about what some of the other overhead costs might look like when you're operating on that kind of level?
Yeah, 100%. So what you need to build into your deal profit is obviously paying for your team, paying for your marketing, having a transaction coordinator manage all of that back end for you, and looking at some disposition services as well. And here's what I'll say to this. Your cost per deal, on average, for someone that's operating at this level, your cost per deal on average is the same to acquire the deal as what it is to dispose the deal. Say that again. Your cost per deal should be about the same to acquire and dispose of the deal. Okay. The reason
That's
why I think
good.
it's important to point that out, a lot of people focus so much energy on getting the deal and then they want to try and sell it for free. That's not the way
Right.
to go. When you want
Right.
to be at that level of 100K, again, relinquishing control, partnering with realtors and brokers, and building in the fact that you might need to pay about a 10% commission. Because again, deal volume and deal velocity is really what you want to aim for here. You don't want to be just holding on to stuff forever, right? So making sure that velocity of money is there. The other thing, like I know some people on here might know Robin Saib, who's a wonderful friend of mine. He's just launched a dispo marketing service that's doing a whole bunch of stuff in one. He's just come out of beta testing. And again, It's really looking at those types of services so that you are the main person above. You've got the helicopter view about your deal flow, your deal pipeline. You're orchestrating that, but don't feel like you have to do it all. So therefore, you really need to build into your profit probably a good, and I'm going to just use some average numbers here, but maybe there's a good 1,200 on the front end and 1,200 on the back end, maybe even more on the back end if you're obviously using realtors or brokers too, in order for you to make $40,000-$50,000 on that deal. And again, if you're in the 100K club, you won't care about the fact that it's going to cost you 5 to 10 grand to make that deal happen, because you get, if you're running a business, you get that that's just part of business and that's just the cost of doing business.
Listen up, land fans. This is huge. We're bringing you the one and only Pace Morby, star of A&E's Triple Digit Flip and the mastermind behind $450 million in real estate deals. He's coming to our virtual meetup on Thursday, December 5th to share how he's applying his creative financing genius to land deals. Head to olfmeetup.com to save your spot today. That's olfmeetup.com. This is the kind of opportunity that changes everything. Absolutely. That's a fantastic insight and a reminder, because I know that it's been said a lot that what we do in the land business, very much of it is marketing, right? But I think that we often tend to just think about the front end marketing and we don't think about the back end marketing. And the back end is just as important as the front end, especially if you're buying and closing on these deals and you're just holding them and you've got money tied up into those deals. It's important to get that moving quickly.
Yep.
Something else that you mentioned earlier, and it resonated with me so much, is just relinquishing that control as a business owner, because thinking of those higher level things that actually move the needle requires a certain amount of creativity. It requires a certain amount of focus and sort of like laser attention. And I think that at least for me, I know that if I try to do too many things in my business that other people could be doing, it sort of takes my bandwidth and it takes my energy away. And I don't have the energy that I really need to be able to sit down and think about, like, well, what would be a really cool creative marketing piece? Or what would be, how do I need to retool this whole process, right?
Yeah.
So I love that you mentioned that.
Can I just add to what you've said there as well?
Yes.
There's a lot of science out there now about the fact that multitasking is actually not that good for us. We're trying to do all these things, and when we've got laser focus on something, we tend to get a better outcome. And I was at a talk recently, and this is who I'm going to see next week, running a course with Sean McCloskey. He's an amazing speaker.
Yeah.
And I watched him do a keynote a while ago, and he said, when's the last time that you were doing a task, any task, whether that's working out or running your comps or checking in on your team or writing your SOPs, but when's the last time you did a task that you can honestly, hand on heart, say that I gave that 10 out of 10? And this was a room of 400 people, and I could tell you it was like you could hear a pin drop, because everyone in that room is entrepreneurs and business owners, and we were all like, oof. Yeah, that's a really
feel that one.
Yeah, feel that one, right? And it became a really good topic of conversation that day. And it's something that I now think about daily. Since that talk, there's now team members in my team that have really lifted because I've stepped away, because I've said, I don't need to spend time in the minutiae of X, Y, and Z with you, because I trust that you've got what you need to do this. Report back to me on when it's done. So here's your SOPs, here's your process. I've hired you to be the right person. Go give it 10 out of 10, rather than give it 5 out of 10 and let me do the other 5 because I'm getting in there and checking it. No, not needed. So really now on a daily basis, we're looking at some of the stuff we're doing and going, what would that look like if I gave that in this moment, even if I'm only doing something for half an hour? But if I was to give this a 10 out of 10, what does that effort look like? And then what does that mean with the results I'm getting to? Because when we're trying to do 100 things and we're giving it a 2 out of 10, 5 out of 10, 3 out of 10 over here, we feel like we're doing lots, but the wheels are spinning, but not much is happening. Does that make sense? Does that resonate?
Absolutely. No, that is 100% spot on. I think we talked about
that's a 10 out of 10. That's what that is.
That's a 10 out of 10. That's absolutely right. I believe we talked about the book Who Not How by Dan Martell.
Yes.
And he has a really cool exercise where he asks you to take a time audit. So every time you do a task, take a time audit, see what it is, write it down, how long did it take, and just kind of keep a log. But the second component of that is to keep an energy audit to see what do you feel like when you're doing those things and keep track of
Mm.
that. And it's often those energy vampire activities that kind of suck our energy away, and then we don't have the time to be able to show up in a meaningful way with laser focus, right?
Yeah.
So it's a huge thing, and I didn't even think about like an energy thing because sometimes I do literally just have the time to be able to do it really quick instead of
Yeah.
trying to delegate it to someone, but it does take my energy, and it kind of gives me a ding in the whole process of my decision fatigue, right?
Yeah.
Because the more decisions that we make throughout the day, the lower quality our decisions become at the end of the day. So I know that there are a lot of people out there, Richard Branson and some really high level guys that they'll only try to make 3 or 4 decisions in a day. And it's
Yeah.
only the decisions that they can make in the business. And so I think there's something to that for sure,
I think there is as well. And can I add one more thing? You just spoke then about audit your activities and your energy. One other thing that I think is very different with people I notice in the 100K club is they 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 love talking to people. Because one thing I still see out there in this land biz is people think they can do this business without talking to people.
right?
This
Right.
is a relationship business, folks. And when you're at that level, everything is about managing relationships with your team, with your providers, with your customers, with your sellers, with your buyers. It's all about that. So, yeah, you've got to want to talk to people and feel that that gives you energy. Does that mean you need to be an extrovert versus introvert? No, that doesn't matter. But what does matter is your competence in being able to manage those relationships and have meaningful conversations with people.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And that's a whole other level too. Like when you start talking about like relationships and managing relationships, that's a
We can
much
do a
different
whole nother
level.
series on that.
Absolutely. And I think that we probably will. I'm going to go ahead and write that down so we can talk about that in the future because it's so important, right? It is so important. So, can you also talk a little bit about if someone is looking to grow their business, maybe they're listening to this and they actually maybe only make $5,000 a month and they say, "Well, I really want to become part of the 100K club." What is a realistic timeline that
Yep.
someone could expect to progress to this 100K club?
Yep. Beautiful. So if you're doing 5K a month, every single month, put I would not do 20% of that into your next. I'd say if you can, take more like 30 to 40% of that profit, put that aside. After 3 months, you should have enough to then go from whatever marketing you're doing for 5K a month to upping your marketing to be able to reach 10K a month. And then sit at 10K a month for about 2 or 3 months. Again, taking about 30% of that profit from each deal, popping that aside. By the 6 month mark, let's go from 10 to 20K a month. And then again, after a few months, 20 to 50K a month. Can you see how I'm not going up in things of 5K, but it's almost like you can double your business every time. Because as you're
Right.
doing that, it's like compounding, right? If you keep doubling it every time, it doesn't take too long to get to, you might be looking at, say, 6 to 12 months to get to that stage of 100K a month. But you need
Wow.
to be extremely disciplined with making sure that that growth trajectory has a plan. You're not just going month by month and thinking about it. It's like, right, how many deals do I need to do this month? And I'm going to move heaven and earth to make that happen. And then from out of that, I've got to have a separate account, pop the money aside. Doesn't mean you need to use it straight away, but pop it aside whilst you're concurrently building out those systems and processes and ways of working. And then when you're ready to double it, doesn't feel so big. And this is where I think a lot of people come unstuck because they'll start somewhere and think, well, I want to quadruple that in the next 3 to 4 months. It's like, oof, what happens in that time frame? Good to have that goal, but if you can't handle the leads that come through and all of a sudden leads are falling through the cracks, deals are falling over because you're not managing things appropriately, you're actually wasting your money. So do it in a way that is gradual, but challenges you each time to get out of your comfort zone. And if you just double it every time, but stay at that level for a couple of months, you should be kind of, on that trajectory pretty quickly.
If you're enjoying this episode of the OnlyLandFans podcast, please let us know by subscribing and leaving a review. Now let's get back to the action. That is fantastic. I just got this image last time we talked about, the land business can often feel when you're growing and scaling your business that you are trying to assemble the plane while flying the plane.
Yeah.
And what I heard out of that last response was you really want to make sure that even though you're quickly putting the plane together, you want to make sure that you are being diligent about having a plan, what goes on when, and then making sure that you're tightening every bolt, tightening every screw, so that way things don't fall apart when you do reach your highest speeds, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Love
And the
that.
other thing I'd also say along that journey is as you are doubling, think about, coming back to the start of this conversation, who do you need to change into as you're doing that? Because if you're at a 5K a month type of business, you're probably just I'm not saying probably, likely you're just an operator. You're operating your business, you're managing everything yourself, which is fine. We all started there and we started there. But as you start to grow, come back to those questions I said earlier. What is my time worth? What moves the needle? And what am I outsourcing or systematizing so that as I grow to that, I'm also personally growing with my business? And how do I embody the mindset of someone who's a business owner and not a deal desk person? What do I need to do to challenge myself, from my leadership skills, my people skills, my business management skills, all of those things? Because let me tell you, when you're at 100K a month, you're having very different conversations with your bookkeeper and accountant than what you are at a 5K a month.
Right,
Now
right.
you're looking at things like tax minimization strategies, setting things up in trusts, minimizing how you move properties around. You're starting to get more strategic. And so therefore you're going to lean on some more people for that, but equally you're going to need to educate yourself on what that looks like for you.
Yeah, that is a fantastic point. As a matter of fact, last weekend, I was at a land conference, Learn Land Conference by Clint Turner, and just met up with some incredible colleagues and friends. And we were actually having this exact conversation. What type of growth does it take to become the type of business owner that operates at such a high level? And so many of us agreed that there's so much personal development that goes into that. And there's shadow work that needs to be done, there's self-development that needs to be done, limiting beliefs have to be conquered. And again, I just go back to the point that we were talking about earlier. You need to be able to have the time and the energy to be able to do that. You're not thinking about
And the
self
motivation, by the
and the
way.
motivation. Yes,
Because it's like,
absolutely.
oh, I want this, but then there's this inner voice that goes, but do you? Are you up for this? And every time a challenge comes your way, that inner voice will come up again and go, do you really want this? And it's going to
Right.
push you. That's
For
there for a
sure.
reason, and it's testing you every single time. So that motivation has got to be there to push through those boundaries and really think, what's my new identity in this? And let me tell you, and this is, you probably spoke about this over the weekend as well, but as you go through those growth phases and that development and that change, there's going to be people around you going, what the heck are you doing? Where did you go? Where's that other person I knew? And that's going to feel like it's going to pull you back, right? And I always say that sometimes on the road to success, we often leave people in our wake, and that's okay too. That's the reality
Absolutely.
of being a business owner, unfortunately.
That is so true. And that's something that not very many people talk about enough, I think. I think that
Yep.
especially people that have known you in one walk of life, maybe you're starting another career, maybe it's family that have known you all of your life. When you start leveling up and you actually start changing from the inside out, sometimes it makes those people really uncomfortable because they don't recognize who you are anymore. They don't know
Yeah.
what the dynamic of the relationship is. But then I've also found that sometimes success can be triggering for some people because it's sort of like it's a mirror that's held up to them, and
Oh, yes.
they have to face the fact that they're not growing, you know?
Yes. Ah,
Yeah,
we
that's
got to do a whole nother topic on this. I couldn't
absolutely.
agree more. And so here's what I'd also say if you're in that 100K club as well, want to aspire to that, start to surround yourself with people who are already there. Start to surround yourself with people that you look at their behaviors and the way that they're conducting themselves and go, I want to hang around you a bit more. It's okay to keep those friends and family that don't align with what you're doing close by, but maybe don't share so much with them. Just kind of keep it at arm's length when it comes to talking about your business. Talk about your business with the people that get it, that want to lift you up. Because there's going to be a heap of people out there that'll want to pull you down, because that's just human nature. That's the tall poppy syndrome, right? You know, everyone else will see you succeed and be like, yeah, I don't like that because I want to do that. Or there's different reasons people have, whether it's a scarcity mindset or just a sense of lack, whatever it might be. We're going to come across that. So start to really think about, who do you associate with? Who do you surround yourself with? What books do you read? What podcasts do you watch? OnlyLandFans is a good one. What are the different things that you're doing to keep that level of exposure high?
Absolutely, absolutely. And sometimes I've even found that sometimes the people that are trying to pull you down, quote unquote, pull you down, they're not necessarily doing it out of spite. Sometimes those people are just trying to protect you because they don't have the vision, they don't have the frame of reference to feel like, oh yeah, 100K a month, that's doable. Let's help you tackle it.
Yeah.
And I know that it's kind of human nature for people to want the closest people around them to cheer them on and support them. And sometimes they're just trying to keep you safe, and sometimes safe means small. And
Yeah.
so that's a really important thing to
I
consider.
completely agree with what you've just said there. It doesn't come out of spite most of the time. It comes from a place of love, but they just don't know any different.
Absolutely. And so
Yeah.
you mentioned get around people that are already part of that 100K club, that already have sort of faced the levels and the devils that you're going to be facing. And
Yep.
so, I know that you mentioned some podcasts and some other resources, but how did you personally, when you were elevating and evolving into these higher levels, how did you find people to connect with, and how did you connect with those people?
Yep. First, I started listening to some really awesome podcasts, and don't ask me to list them because my it's the end of the day, my brain's not going to remember. But I started listening to some really awesome podcasts of people that were getting the success I wanted. Now, they weren't necessarily all land people. Um, Matter of fact, most of them weren't. They were just business people. So I started listening to them and following them on both socials and all the different things out there. Some of them that were more in real estate, I just reached out to. So don't be, even all the podcasting I've done, I regularly will have people email me and go, I just listened to this and I just wanted to say, hey. I'm like, cool. Hey, let's talk. Don't be afraid to reach out to someone if you've listened to what they've said and you really resonate with it, to connect and say hi and introduce yourself and start to make them part of your circle. And it's not, what I would say when you do that though, don't go to them expecting to um get. So, I want to get something from you. Always go to these people and say, I loved what I saw. I just want to give to you. So give feedback, give recommendations, give, because then it will come back to you in spades. It really will. So again, relationships, right? All that stuff. So I started listening to things. We then looked, I say we, because my business partner, Matt, and I started to look at different mastermind groups and who we wanted to hang around physically. Like, what are the rooms that we want to be in and the conversations that we want to be having? Now, for us, that wasn't necessarily all land people. There's lots of awesome things out there because we're not only land people, but we also have a marketing business, as you know. So then we wanted to start to look at the best people out there around marketing and get into those groups. So we made our way in. We're part of a group called the Family Mastermind, run by Matt Andrews.
Yeah.
And that's got some of the biggest real estate educators, influencers, business people, coaches, platform developers, you name it. It's got 400 odd people in it. And these are people that I look and I'm like, wow, we got some leveling up to do here, right? So
Right.
again, be in a room that kind of scares you a little, that makes you go, oh, I've got stuff to learn here, that makes you question that you don't know it all, that you've got so much opportunity to learn from all these people around you. Start to hang around and build friendships and relationships there.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I've heard it said that if you're the biggest fish in the room, you're in the wrong room, right?
Yeah,
Just
totally.
because we can get so much motivation. I remember when I joined my very first mastermind, thanks to Tim Mai. when I joined my very first mastermind, it just broke my brain open. Not that
Mm,
it was anything that was like super real estate specific or like really specific strategies that I could go the next day and put into my business, but it was just the simple size and scope that a lot of these people thought about that just made it
yeah,
real, that made it
yeah,
possible, right?
totally
Uh,
right.
I
Yeah,
love
I
it.
love it.
I
Broke
love
your
it.
brain open. I love it. The other thing
Yeah.
I'll say then is really think about coaching. And I'm going to say this with respect to all the different coaches out there, but there's coaches and then there's coaches. Now, if you want to be in the 100K club, you need to be, if you do need coaching, that is, or you feel like you need it, then be coached by someone who's either already there or more than. Um,
Right.
don't just go with someone that you just feel comfortable with, because coaching is not about comfort. Coaching is about pushing you out of that comfort zone to do and try different things, to help that growth. And so if you stick with a coach that's not at or above the goal that you want, you're probably not going to get there yourself.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I cannot agree with you more about the value of coaches. I know so many friends and colleagues that it seems like the higher they climb on that ladder of success, the more coaches they add to their lives, right? So there's like some kind of like they almost approach it like having a cabinet. So they have like a spiritual coach and they've got a business coach, and I think that that's super powerful because it really helps to sort of leverage other people's experiences to be
Mm.
able to grow faster and in a
Yep.
more efficient way. So I
But
think that's fantastic.
it's only powerful if you're implementing. If you're just getting
Yes.
coaching for coaching's sake and you're not taking action and implementing, you are wasting your money.
Wasting money, wasting time, and I
Yep.
guarantee the coach is probably not too happy with you
Coach
either.
is probably not enjoying working with you. Yeah, that's for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. So, can we talk a little bit about what are some of the common marketing channels that you're seeing people in the 100K club using? I mean,
Yep.
it's not all male, right?
Nope.
Awesome.
Majority of it is though. So what they tend to be doing is a combination of cold calling, direct mail, and ringless voice. Um, Not many people are doing SMS at that level because SMS is on its way out, and they want to again make sure they've got structured processes. Some are using SMS to maybe test market, which is great to do that. But again, you're dealing with, especially when you're getting into more expensive properties, you're dealing with a different type of property owner. Not just an infill lot that no one's using. It might be, unless you're going after like waterfront properties, for example, that are higher price point, or bigger areas with higher price point. But these tend to be, when you go up in price of a property, you tend to go up in the sophistication of the property owner. Okay, so make sure that you're putting things out there that the property owner can resonate with and go, oh yes, I can respond to that. So it tends to be a combination of cold calling using an American-based cold caller, which we use, and then direct mail. But again, making sure you're distinguishing that direct mail with the right message to the right person for the right property. So you might have a couple of different strategies that you're doing there, and then once that direct mail is done, send a ringless voice. Hey, I can see that our letter about your vacant land's been delivered. I'd love to know if you've read it and if you've got any questions. Now, all three of those things you can systematize pretty easily. You can outsource pretty easily, and you can have SOPs written about all of them pretty easily.
Excellent. And
In
so,
addition as well, don't forget your online. So again, making sure you're running ads to your audience, that you're doing retargeting for anyone that checks you out, and that you've got your right social and online presence too.
yeah, that is an absolute massive insight into this. I know that a lot of people may not really consider the person on the other end of that marketing, but it has to be tailored towards that person. Something that I found is
Message, market, match.
that's it. Can you say that one more time?
Message, market, match.
Perfect. I love that. One of the areas that I work in, I realize that they're older sellers or older owners. Those people I found don't text as frequently as younger people,
Yep.
right? They like to have something tangible in their hands and to make it feel real. They'll rarely go to my website, but they'll call back on a letter, right? And
Yep.
so just knowing that I think is so important as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Direct mail is not dead, people. It's tough. Like, it is tough out there, but that's why you need to move away from just the standard direct mail piece to really understanding your market. even down to, I was having a call with one of my customers today, who happens to be on here, but we were talking about how the market has shifted in the last 6 months and using like a blank offer as opposed to numbers at the moment. So you can get more people responding with where they think they're at, and then you've got a negotiation point, right? So really making sure that you're honoring where the market's at, who you're mailing to, and what is the personalization in that message that you need to get out there as well.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. I mean, if you look at I don't think it's a secret that our market has kind of shifted over the past several months, even, multiple months. And that means that it can require some education on the seller's side, right? Like we have to educate these sellers, and we can't do that with just a single text message. Like there has to be, a very thought out process. So you mentioned earlier about 15 to 20,000 at marketing pieces. Is that right? Is that what you said per month?
Marketing budget.
Okay, 15 to 20,000 marketing budget. So about how many contacts would that be if you're looking at, either mail pieces, cold calls, a mixture of both? Like if you had to sort of
contacts for that month should be somewhere between 25 to 30,000.
Excellent. So 25 to 30,000 is a lot, right? It's a lot. And I just think about that from a volume standpoint, that one month you have 25 to 30,000, and then next month you're going to have a new batch of 25 to 30,000, and it starts to compound really, really fast. So can you talk about what are some of the follow-up sequences and procedures that you have seen that have worked best for people in the 100K club that you work with to be able to manage that volume of follow?
First and foremost, don't send your leads to voicemail. have an intake manager. You might need like 1 or 2 intake VAs. They're not really there to negotiate for you, but have an intake team. Now, that doesn't have to be a direct VA. There's loads of people out there now that are just doing intake, like Answer First, Pat Live being one of them as well. Like have an intake, a dedicated intake to triage your leads. Because when you set up your intake to triage, you can ascertain, is that going to be something that I want to prioritize? Like you might even want to look at your triage from level 1 through to level 4 sellers. Level 1 being not interested, take me off the list. That can just go to an admin person to do. You don't even need to worry about it, right? Level 2 might be interested, not ready to sell. Again, I'm talking out loud here, right? I'm not saying it has to be this. Level 3 is I'm interested to sell, get me an offer. Level 4 is desperate to sell, really highly motivated, get me an offer tomorrow. So you might want to triage your intake so that you're really managing times and processes around all of that. Next is once you're then getting to your numbers, make sure that you've got the right processes and systems in place to do your comps in bulk. So when you're marketing, what I would also recommend is that, let's say you're sending 25,000 out this month, where possible, try and centralize that into the same county or state or area, again, depending on your strategy, so that as those leads come through, it's almost like, well, now we're running comps for this whole area. We can start to then maximize those comp opportunities and duplicate that out and looking at the trends en masse. Because when you get to this stage, you might not be looking at property per property. You might be starting to gather a lot more data on what's the trending analysis for price per acre in this county when we're dealing with bigger properties, or price per acre down to zip code, or price per acre when it might be infill lot versus larger property. Again, not giving you the do this, but I'm saying think about how you maximize your opportunities when they start to come in. What was your question about? So I'm going off on a tangent in my brain.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant, by the way. But before we get back to the question, I do have a follow-up question to what you just said.
Yeah, sure.
So, in that instance of level 1 to 4, right, types of sellers in terms of their motivation and what they want, would it be safe to say that you would make offers on everything that's like 2, 3, and 4?
Definitely.
Right?
You want to make offers on every single opportunity that comes through if it meets your criteria. Even when the customers say, like if you've got someone that's doing verbal negotiations for you and the customer's like, no, not going to take that, still send them the offer. Because guess what? they might have had 5 conversations that week that they've turned down. But if you're the only one that's going to mail them an offer, or preference being email them an offer, not mail, email them an offer, you might be the only person that does that out of all 5 that they've spoken to. And then they're going to start to take you more seriously. So don't ever take a no as a no until it's a really, really, really hard no.
Yeah, that's really,
No,
really good. Yeah, that's fantastic.
always
And
reach
then
out.
of course those levels that doesn't dictate whether you send an offer or not. It just dictates the priority at which you
Yep.
send those offers out,
Yeah,
right?
correct. And then it might be a case of, when it comes to how you're managing your workload, you might, again, I'm saying this is food for thought, folks, knowing what I've seen work. You might say that on Tuesdays and Thursdays are the days of the week that my team gets the offers out. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we're running comps, assessing numbers, and getting back to people. So therefore, if you're sending out offers on a Tuesday, part of Wednesday is going to be following up all those offers. And it might mean that your team's making like 50 phone calls because you might have got 50 offers out. Those 50 phone calls is, hey, Kendall, we can see that we've sent your offer. It's in your inbox. Have you got time to open it now, and can we chat? So that might take up the morning. Afternoon is then running comps for all the new ones that have come in so you can get your offers out the following day. So start to think of your team as, and your workload as, in cycles. Because if you can also do that in cycles, number one, your SOPs can be a bit easier. But number two, you also then can manage the expectation of your sellers and say, hey, we've got 20 deals in our pipeline that we're working on this week. We get our offers out on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We've missed the cutoff for Tuesday, so I'll be sending you an offer on Thursday. Is that okay? And I'll be calling you on Friday to follow up. Is that okay? So really think about how you're batching all of the workload around stuff, because otherwise, on a daily basis, your team's going to be doing, running comps, getting offers out, doing follow-ups, and it's just going to feel like, when we spoke before about focus, what's a 10 out of 10 look like? That's what a 10 out of 10 business looks like. Chunking down into very defined hours of the day, days of the week, about what happens and when.
That is brilliant. I
And
absolutely love that.
then what I would do is make sure, again, that all of your offers that you're sending out, you're not just sending out offer 1, you're doing offer 2 and even up to offer 3. So in your strategy, you need to keep those offers going. So again, once you've got offer 1 sent out, in your systems and CRM, at what point do you send out an offer 2? For me, I'd be sending out an offer 2 within like 3 weeks. No more. If they haven't responded, boom, off goes offer 2. 3 weeks after that, if they haven't responded, boom, off goes offer 3. After every single one of those, guess what they get? Either a ringless voice or a phone call. Hey, we've sent you another offer. Please check.
That
Keep
is
going. And then
great.
every single one of those should have a drip sequence attached to it. Just an email drip sequence, or maybe an SMS or a phone call drip sequence, whatever medium your customer is communicating with you through. So again, I always say respond in kind. If you're dealing with an older person that prefers the phone, that should be the medium you're using. If you're dealing with someone who prefers email, that should be what you're using. So your CRMs and systems should account for that. And you should have a tag or something in there that talks about communication method. And then that drip sequence needs to be a conversation flow of following up that lead. And even because, again, this whole business, it's about right person at the right time for the right price. But that right price might take 6 months to get to. Now, I'm working on a deal at the moment that's been 11 months in the making. 11. But we've just kept the lines of communication open, and we just keep it going.
Yeah, I love that. That is absolutely incredible. I love the batching. I love, working in cycles, because studies have shown that anytime you work on something, even if you are not multitasking, but you're working on something and then you shift gears to work on something else, your productivity actually drops just a little bit whenever you switch,
Yeah,
right? And so if you're constantly having your staff do that, or your team do that, then where you're really impacting how productive they're able to be. So that's a
correct.
really fantastic point.
Yeah. And in doing that as well, set some rules and boundaries around it. And what I mean by that is, if we're on a Tuesday morning and it's offer processing time, your email is switched off. All your distractions are switched off, and all that you're doing is offer processing. boom, 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 getting them all out on PandaDocs or DocuSign or whatever it is, making sure that they're all updated in your CRM, then switch your email back on. Because we're humans, right? We like the bright, shiny thing. So it's, oh, bright, shiny
Right.
thing. Oh, this has popped up. So really, where possible, create the environment for your team to really be able to focus in those moments too.
Yeah, I love that. That's fantastic. A follow-up question to the offers. When you send out offer one, two, three, are in your business, are all of those offers the same price, or do you go down in price for every offer to
Up,
sort of create or up
up.
in price?
Yep,
Got it.
up in
Okay.
price. And I'm not talking heaps because a lot of customers in our business, we call it like, what's the sugar on top? Maybe that customer just needs an extra 1,000. Maybe it's just an extra 10% on what we're currently doing, like whatever that looks like. But we always define that up front. So when we're looking at a deal, we'll say, I'm prepared to pay, now that I've run my comps, I'm prepared to pay between here and here. That's it. And let's just say that range is like a 15,000 range. Well, therefore, offer one might be this. Offer two might go up by 3,000. Offer three might go up by another 4,000. And then you're reaching your ceiling and that's it. So really define what that is up front so that you've got those negotiation tactics at play. But again, you're then systematizing when you're sending out your offer twos, there's an automatic calculation that goes on.
Excellent. I love that. That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So I know we're coming up to the end of our time here. I just have one more question for you. If someone is trying to plan out their trajectory, let's say they are brand new or they are at the $5,000 a month range and they want to be in the 100K club, what format of business plan would you advise them to use? I know, and where this is coming from is I know that there's so many different facets to the land business that if you just try to list them all, it can get really confusing. And do you put them out in different tabs? How do you plan on paper what growth looks like in your land business?
Oh, wow. That is a big question. And the reason why it's such a big question is I think first and foremost, this plays into people's modalities. So you might have someone that is really visionary. You might have someone that's more kinesthetic that taps into feelings. You might have someone who's more analytical. So people tend to approach business planning through their modality. And so what I would say though is whatever modality you are, so whether you're a spreadsheet person or a mind map person or a whiteboard person, or it doesn't matter what it is, but there should be some key components in it. Okay. Number one is your financials. Where am I at now? What's my trajectory? And what do I need to budget for to get to that trajectory? Okay. Reverse engineer your numbers as well. If I'm marketing X amount a month per month now, and it's getting me X, like as I said before, 5K a month to make 25K is the same as spending 20K to make 100K. Really is. There's not that much difference, right? It's the same principles, but really think about those numbers and reverse engineer that. As you're reverse engineering it, you want to also then think, so budget and numbers is one, then it's process. As I'm growing this, what are the different processes I need in place in order for me to build and scale that business efficiently? Then it's systems. Systems and processes for me are kind of intertwined, but writing out your SOPs and then deciding what systems you use to help manage those SOPs is kind of two separate things, right? In that plan, oh, sorry, I just knocked that. In the plan, I'd also then include research as part of it. So as you're going out and trying to find systems, processes, etc., you don't know what you don't know. And that's where I think going into what we said before, surrounding yourself with people that are already there, asking people for advice, checking in, hey, what's worked for you? What would you suggest? I'm here and I want to be here. Having that conversation with people, right? And then the very last is people. And the reason why I put people last is you should think of your business as different jobs to be done in your business, not just VAs that I need to go and find. Like, what are the jobs to be done as I'm going through this growth trajectory? What kind of job do I need to manage this system or this process? And then you go out and find it. I think sometimes people just want to find an all-rounder VA and plug and play. But as you're in a business growth phase, often that's not the best way to look at it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's fantastic. It reminds me of an exercise that I have with my clients where once they identify what systems they're going to use, then we figure out to the granular level what are the actual tasks that have to be done in that system. And then we have to assign it to someone who's accountable for it. And so, who is it in your business? If it's you all the way down the sheet, like, okay, well, we have some delegation opportunities here, right?
Yep.
So that's a really fantastic way to sort of think about. I love the different levels and different layers to thinking all the way from finances all the way to people, um, planning that growth. So that's
Yeah.
absolutely
And
fantastic.
plan it in quarterly chunks because a month goes by way too quick. 6 months is too long. I think a quarter, an annual plan that's broken down into quarters kind of feels a bit comfortable.
Excellent.
You've got opportunities to implement and measure in that time as well. Whereas 1 month is just woof, just goes by way too quick.
Right.
You should be measuring your KPIs every month though. So
Yes.
in that planning phase, also talk about what am I measuring? So what's my measure of success when it comes to deal flow, response rates, conversion rates, workflow, timelines, service level agreements, all those little things about that trajectory and how you're going to get there.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Follow-up question for your quarters. Because we talked about the speed of growth. So getting a little bit more in detail about quarterly planning. Let's say if the goal is to make, $100,000 in a year. Let's just use that for an
Yep.
example. Does that mean that every quarter needs to be $25,000 goal, or do we start smaller and then go up exponentially, or how do
I
you
would,
like to approach that?
yeah, I would start smaller and go up because, especially if you're starting from scratch as well, it's going to take 6 months before your business really starts to see some results. So plan it out just more from an activity perspective. So in quarter one, I'm getting my pipeline up to speed. I might not have closed any deals yet, but how many profitable deals do I want to have in my pipeline? Okay. By the end of quarter two, how many of those profitable deals do I want to close? And then how many more profitable deals do I want to have added into the pipeline? So you're almost looking at two different measures there, right? And then by quarter three, that should be bigger. And by quarter four is when you want to start to backload it, if you like.
Yeah, that makes total sense because you're only going to get better at the systems and processes throughout the year. So it would make sense looking at your graph why it is shaped the way that it is, and it's not
Correct.
just a stair step, right?
And
That's,
the
that's
reason for that is you might be closing on deals in month 9 or 10 from people that you spoke to in month one.
absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
the reality.
that's the reality of it for sure. Well, thank you so much, AJ. Thank you, everyone. You guys have been absolutely phenomenal. I wish everyone a very safe and happy holiday season. We will be back with our next virtual meetup after the first of the year. So, wishing you all a very happy and safe holiday season and a blessed and abundant 2024. We're looking forward to
Yes.
seeing you guys. Be safe, take care, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks so
Thanks,
much.
everyone.
Bye bye. If you're interested in hearing from other seven-figure land flippers about how they've started and run their businesses, then join us at onlylandfans.com. Looking forward to seeing you there.